How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Yud Aleph, Daf 11 of Masechtas Sanhedrin. Friends. Right, so yesterday we started transitioning, I think, into Ibur Hashana. So we are going to continue with that. Yeah, we're going to continue with some Ibur Hashana stuff. Okay. Here we go. Some interesting stuff on today's daf. Also some technical stuff. We're starting off Yud Amud Beis all the way at the bottom. 2 lines from the bottom. Zman Nosi Tzarech Gdi Simen. Mazel Tov. Last line of the Amud. Of the daf, I guess. So we said that we're ma'aber the shana, that with Betzim we need 7 people essentially once they decide that they're going to make a leap year. So you need 7 people there. And those people need to be invited. They have to be invited. Those people need to be invited. There was once a Maise with Rabbi Gamliel Shomer that he said, Ashkimu li shiva aliyah. Get me, bring for me 7 people to the attic, I don't know, to wherever they were, so that they could be ma'aber the shana. Hishkim what's a shmeina. So Rabbi Gamliel got there, and it turns out that there were 8 people there to be ma'aber the shana. Somebody showed up uninvited. So Rabbi Gamliel says, all right, who did it? Who's the one who was not invited? Yora Yered, and whoever you are, leave. Omad Shmuel HaKohen ve'omer. Shmuel HaKohen stood up and proclaimed, Hanihu she'olisi shelo b'rshus. I am the one who showed up uninvited. But I have not shown up in order to actually participate in being ma'aber the shana. I only came to be an observer, to learn how is it done. So rest assured, I have no intention of crashing the proceedings and participating in the proceedings without permission. No, I really just came to learn. That's why I'm here. I'm the 8th man. I'm Loshev ben Ishev. So Gamliel says to Shmuel HaKohen, okay, my son, have a seat. It is befitting for all of the years to be leaped by way of you, meaning you definitely, no hard feelings. You are a great person. You definitely, in principle, are invited to be ma'aber shanim. But what can I tell you? The Chacham say that only people who have been invited can participate in being ma'aber the shana. So sure, have a seat, observe, but you can't participate. But just know you're a great guy. Velo Shmuel HaKohen hava. But the truth of the matter is that it wasn't actually Shmuel HaKohen who showed up unannounced, uninvited. Ela ina shachrino. Somebody else had showed up uninvited. Shmuel HaKohen was invited. Shmuel HaKohen, however, proclaimed that he was the uninvited one, he was the intruder, so as not to embarrass the other one. He didn't want that the real intruder should be embarrassed, so Shmuel HaKohen stood up and proclaimed he was the intruder, but in fact, he was just covering for whoever the real intruder was. And similar to when Rebbe was darshaning. Rebbe was once even Geshir, and he smelled garlic, and he did not like that smell. He said, all right, whoever did it, whoever ate the garlic, get out. So Reb Chia, the great Reb Chia, stood up and left. They all then got up and left. So Reb Shimon Rebbe's son, the next day, found Reb Chia. And he says to Reb Chia, is it you who caused trouble to my father by eating garlic? So Reb Chia says, Lo tehei kazus b'Yisrael. No way, I wouldn't have done that. But I guess what it's getting at is that I did not want whoever did it to be embarrassed, so I kind of took the hit. But no, I would not have done that. I would not have shown up to your father's shir and ruined the shir by eating garlic. Who did Reb Chia learn this principle from? Reb Meir. He learned the principle from Reb Meir. The Tanya that we learned in Brisa, Maise b'isha achas sheboso leveis midrash Reb Meir. There was a Maise with a woman who came to the Beis HaMedrash of Reb Meir. Amrlo, and she says to Reb Meir, Rebbe, echad mikim kichani b'biyah. She says that one of the people in this Beis HaMedrash was mekadesh me with biyah, and she doesn't know who it is. Amad Reb Meir v'chasav lo get krisus v'nosan lo. So Reb Meir, I guess, didn't want to embarrass whoever was mekadesh this woman with biyah, and so Reb Meir wrote a get and gave it to her. It was him. So they all got up and wrote a get and gave it to her. So that Memele, if they all gave her a get, so also the one who was mekadesh Reb Biyah gave her a get, and nobody was embarrassed. Who did Reb Meir learn this from? So that make sure not to embarrass an individual. Mishmael HaKohen, who said that he was the one who showed up uninvited to be Ma'ab the Chodesh, the Shana. Who did Shmuel HaKohen learn out? Mishchanya ben Yechiel. He learned it from Shchanya ben Yechiel. The Pasuk says in Ezra, Vayan Shchanya ben Yechiel mibnei Elam, that Shchanya ben Yechiel from the sons of Elam answered, and he says to Ezra, Vayomer leEzra, Anachnu ma'alnu be'Elokeinu, we did no good in front of our God. Vanoshev noshim nochus ma'mir oretz, and we married non-Jewish women. Ve'ata yesh mikveh l'Yisrael azos, and now we're going to purify that. But the truth is, Shchanya ben Yechiel was married to a Jew, or at least was not married to a non-Jew. Shchanya ben Yechiel me'echel gamelu. Who did Shchanya ben Yechiel learn this out from? Yoshua. From Yoshua the Chsiv, Vayom Hashem Yoshua, that after the loss at Ai, on account of Achan taking from the spoils of Jericho, Hashem Yoshua, God says to Joshua, Kum what? Kumlach, get up. Lamazat nofel al panecha chotu Yisrael. Why are you falling on your face? The Yidden have sinned. Amr lefan of Rebbeinu Shalom lemi chotu. So Yoshua says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he says, who did it? Who did it? Amr loy. So the Rebbeinu Shalom says, V'chidiato ani l'cha. What? I'm a tattletale. You think I'm a tattletale? You think I'm going to tell you? Hatal geirolos. Rather make lots. Make a lottery and figure it out that way. So we see in that story with Yoshua and Hashem that Hashem did not want anybody to be humiliated explicitly. Everybody say Moshe dichsiv ad ono me'antem. Alternatively, you could say it's from Moshe, that by the Mon, when some people went out to collect Mon on Shabbos when they were not supposed to. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Hashem says to Moshe, ad ono me'antem, and he doesn't say explicitly who did it. When the last prophets died, Chagai, Zechariah, and Malachi, so then there was no longer divine presence in Israel. But even so, they would continue to hear voices from God. Okay. One time they were in the attic of the house of Guria in Jericho. And a voice emanated from God, and they heard it. And the voice said, there is somebody here in this Aliyah's Beis Guria B'Yericho who is befitting that the divine presence should rest upon him. But his generation does not merit it. So they all looked at Hillel the elder. When Hillel the elder died, they said about Hillel, Hey Chosid, Hey Onov, Talmidah Shel Ezra. This Chosid, this Onov, this humble person, this Chosid person, Chasidi Shayid, was from the students of Ezra. Shupam, another time, Shupam Achas, Hayu Misum Ba'aliyah b'Yavne, they were in an attic in Yavne. V'nosna aleim, Ba'askom min hashamayim, and there was a heavenly voice that emanated from the heavens. Yesh kan echad sheroy shetishu olav shchina, that there is somebody here who it is befitting that shchina, that the divine presence should rest upon him. Elishen dor zaka lechach, but his generation does not merit it. Nosnu chacham meseneim b'Shmuel HaKohen, and in this case, they all looked at Shmuel HaKohen. They said it's him. U'shemeis amu olav, and when Shmuel HaKohen died, they said about him, Ei chosid ei onav, Talmidah Shel Hillel. This chosid, this onav, was a student of Hillel. Afu amar b'shas misaso, and even though we had said that Shmuel HaKohen was fit to receive divine presence, but he didn't get it because his generation did not, was not on the level. But nonetheless, at the time that he died, Afu amar b'shas misaso, but he did say at the time of his death, he shtikol nevuah, Shimon v'Yishma lecharva, that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, as well as Reb Yishmael ben Elisha Kohen Gadol lecharba, they are going to be killed by the sword as two of the Asar Rugei Malchus, v'Chavroi, and their colleagues, for example, Reb Akiva, Reb Chanani ben Trajan, Liktala, they're going to be killed in other ways. V'Shar Ama lebiza, v'Akanskian asidin, lemeisei al alma, and the rest of the nation is going to be spoiled, and very bad things are going to come to the world. And it played out to be true. By Yehuda ben Bava, Big Shalom Akain, they want to say the same thing about Yehuda ben Bava. Okay, probably that he was like, on the level to receive divine presence and stuff. The thing is, right, or maybe the point is like, right, it says that when he maced, right, hey chosid, hey onav, but ela shenitzufas sha'a, but it didn't work out. She'ein maspidin al rugei malchus, because we don't eulogize rugei malchus, because we just have to bury them quickly, right? Yehuda ben Bava, we're going to learn, and I believe Daf Yud Gimel. On Daf Yud Gimel, we're going to learn about Yehuda ben Bava, how he was killed by the Romans, and so when somebody's killed by the Romans, right, by the Asar Rugei Malchus, they didn't have a time to properly eulogize them because they just had to bury them quickly. It was a dangerous situation. Okay, woo. All right, that was just some interesting kind of agadic kind of stuff. Now we're going to go weiter in halachas pertaining to making leap years. Tanarbanan, the rabbis taught, in ma'avnes hashana elim ken yirtze nasi. Okay, in order to make a leap year, the nasi, the leader, I guess, of Eretz Yisrael, needs to be down. 1 second. Okay, fine. Okay. What about in Bav? Well, I guess that they would probably do it in Eretz Yisrael. Anyways, certainly in Eretz Yisrael, I guess, they would only make a leap year if the Nasi wants it. There's a story with Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Nasi. He had to go and take care of some politics in Syria, which is very, very interesting. He had to go ask permission for something in Syria, which is interesting. I don't know, was he going to Damascus? Is Syria? Sounds pretty similar. So was he going to Damascus? Which is interesting because, during the time of the Ottoman Empire, Palestine was ruled from Damascus. The governor of Palestine was not in Palestine, he was in Damascus. And my understanding is that Palestine was considered southern Syria, which is interesting that already, so it seems like already in the time of the Gemara, I imagine that at the time of Rabbi Gamliel, right, the Romans were already around, and maybe he had to, right, maybe Damascus was already then where they were like ruling. Was it called like Judea then at that time? Eretz Yisrael. I don't know. Anyway, it's very interesting. You had to go. Rabbi Gamliel, who was the Nasi in Eretz Yisrael, had to go ask for permission from some, I guess, Roman official probably in Damascus or in Syria. But maybe he was going to Damascus. I don't know. Damascus is an old place. Vishal Lavo, and he did not yet return, and they had to make a decision about leaping the year. So they made it a leap year on condition that when Rabbi Gamliel comes back, he will agree. And then when Rabbi Gamliel came back and he says, yes, I'm on board, so Memele then the year was leaped. I was taught so we only are ma'aber the shana if we have the following needs. For example, if the roads are really bad and therefore the people are unable to be Ola Regel, right? Imagine Pesach is coming up, but nobody's able to come to Yerushalayim, to Eretz Yisrael, because the roads are terrible right now. It's just Pashut. How can we have a festival that nobody can show up to? Where all the bridges have been damaged. Right? Or for example, comes Pesach time, and all the Pesach ovens are they're no good. They need to dry out after the winter. So how are you going to offer a korban Pesach without a Tanurei Pesachim? Upnei Goliath, 1 second. Yeah, okay. Right. So Rashi says, "V'nimoku begishmi achor v'tzichen chamel l'syabesh." Yeah, okay. The Tanurei Pesachim need to dry out. Okay. Upnei Goliath, Yisrael shenekum kum v'adayin lo yagiu. Or if people left Golus to come be Ola Regel in Eretz Yisrael, but they still haven't yet arrived. And if they're going to miss the festival, then they're going to not come in the future. If they got there and it was already all over. So in those scenarios, we would make a leap year. Avalo mipnei ashelig, but not if it's like snowy. Because it's too cold. Or because of people who didn't want to come to Eretz Yisrael to be Ola Regel. We're not going to make a leap year for them. So for those scenarios, right, Sheleg, Tzina, because in those cases, when it comes to snow and it comes to cold, people are going to come anyways, right? That's not enough of a reason to hold them back. They would just persevere. Kilu, if the roads are bad, the bridges are bad, Kilu, if there's like something that mamish makes it impossible to come, that's a different story. But over here, they'll just kind of push through the cold and stuff. All right. Maybe I should switch. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, we do not make a leap year on account of the kids, of the little goats, or the little sheep, right? That meaning if Pesach is coming up and all the goats and all the sheep, they're too small, they're not yet big enough. You're not going to have a big Geshmak Korban Pesach, you have a little pitzkala. Or alternatively, right, if you have all these women who are giving birth throughout the year, when are they going to bring their birds that they're going to bring? When they come to Yerushalayim anyways for the Shalosh Regalim, so that's when they'll bring their Kinei Yoledes. So if you have the gozalos that they're right there, they're waiting for the gozalos to grow, these birds to grow, that they haven't properly grown yet, enough that they could fly, so none of those reasons would be enough to make a leap year, right? If the little goats, the little sheep are too small, or the gozalos aren't yet flying, because even if you can't bring gozalos, you can always bring pnei yona, which you could bring when they're very small, and that should be enough. So because in all these scenarios, just bring a smaller korban pesach, or bring from the pnei yona, so then we would not make them make a leap year on account of these things. Aval osen tzad l'shana, but you could use them as a support, because as we're going to see soon, I believe later on this daf, that we're going to see different reasons to be ma'aber the shana, right? Because of the aviv, because of the perus ha'ilon, because of the tkufis. Now, you would need 2 out of those 3 in order to leap the year, right? Let's say, we're going to get to in a minute what exactly these things are, but let's say you need to make a leap year because of aviv and because of perus ha'ilon. So then it's a leap year. But aviv alone is not enough. What if it's only aviv, but one of these things, like the birds aren't big enough? So birds not being big enough are not on their own, and not enough on their own, or you wouldn't, or like if the sheep and the goats are not big enough, so that would not be enough to leap the year. But if you have, let's say, the aviv and one of these things, so then it could serve as the second one, just not the primary one. Okay, fine. Ketzad, how so? Rabbi Yanai Omer Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Me'odoyin anachnu l'chon. For example, that there was a letter sent, I guess, to the people of the exile to let them know about the leap year. We are letting you know, the gozlai rekichon, that the birds are small, the imraya the arkin, and the sheep, I think, are also small. Vezimna da aviva lo moto. But also crucially, the grain hasn't yet. The grain is not yet fully developed. The grain is not yet fully developed. Pesach is coming. The grain is not yet fully developed. Lo moto v'shafras milsa ban poi, and therefore, it is, in my eyes, it is befitting. Vosifis al shata da slasin yomin, and therefore, I guess that's referring to Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. I am letting you know, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, the vosifis al shata da slasin yomin, I added 30 days to this year. So we see that kilu, because the grain, the aviv, the grain was not yet ripe, and additionally, there were these items that the birds were too small, the sheep were too small. So it was, though the birds and the sheep were able to be a secondary reason to really the primary reason, which is the fact that the grain is not yet ripe. And therefore, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel made it a leap year. He added 30 days to the year. We ask the kasha, kama ibur hashana, when you add a month to the year, how large is that? How many days are in that month? 30 days. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel omer chodesh. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says 29 days. So why did Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel just making his proclamation that he added 30 days to the year? I thought his opinion is 29 days. Amar Papa ratzu chodesh ratzu shloshim yom. Well, it can go either way, really. Either it could be 30 days, 20. I mean, that extra month that they add to the year could be either one, could be either 29 or 30 days. Tochazi, come and see my ika bein kifoi kadmorle in visone basroi. Come and see the difference between the very strong, tough earlier rabbis to what are considered to be the very humble later rabbis. The Gemara says in Bava Metzia that Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel was one of the humble people, if I'm not mistaken, and yet his father, Rabbi Gamliel, was stark. He was very. I can't remember the word I said a minute ago, but very, 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 very strong personality. Right? There's all those stories with Rabbi Yeshua where he says, "Rabbi Yeshua, get up, get out," those kinds of things. So, okay, the Tanya that we learned in a brisa, Ma'aseh Rabbi Gamliel. There was a Ma'aseh with Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's father. Shoyoshiv al gab ma'ile baraboyis. Very interesting. He was sitting on a step in the Haraboyis. This must have been at the very end of the second temple. Yochanan Sofer Allah's Omer Lefanav. Yochanan HaSofer was before him. V'shalosh igros chatuchas lefanim. There were three letters, unwritten letters, three like parchments there, munachos that were there. Omar lo, so Rabbi Gamliel says to Yochanan Sofer, Tol igros echada, take one of those unwritten letters, take one of those parchments, I guess. Uchsov la'achana b'nei Glila, and he began to dictate. Rabbi Gamliel began to dictate, write to our brethren in the Galilee, Glila al Ilah, the upper Galilee, v'la'achana b'nei Glila tata, and to our brethren in the lower Galilee. Shloimchin yazge, may you have much peace. We are informing you, Desman bi'ura mata, that it is now the time to do bi'ur maisvis. La'fushe maiser mi'maitana dezesa, to separate all maisers, all tithes from the olives, because in the Galilee that was a big olive growing place, and of course we know that trumas and maisers have to be separated from produce. And now there's the Zman Biur that that on years 3 and 6 of the Shemitah cycle, if you haven't yet separated all of your tithes and distributed them properly, so then years 3 and years 6 are when you got to make sure that it's been done by then. So Rabbi Gamliel was just sending them a reminder that hey, the Zman Biur is coming. It's year 3 or year 6. And you better make sure that the tithes have been separated from your olives. And similarly, he sent, take another one of the parchments and write to our brethren in the south, may you have much peace. We're letting you know that the time has come to separate, to make sure all your tithes have been separated and delivered, allotted for all of the grain. Because in the south is where lots of grain would grow. And now, and take an additional parchment, and write, to our brethren in Bavel, in the exile in Bavel, as well as our brethren in Madai. And to all of the other exiles of Israel. Shlomchin Yazge, may you have much peace. Le'olam, forever. We are letting you know to Gozlai Rekichin that these birds are still young. V'imraya Arkin, I guess as well as the sheep. V'zimna da aviva lo mata, and here you say right, okay, and the grain has not yet ripened. V'shafra milsa ba'anpoi uve'anpe chaveroi, and it was befitting not just to me, but also to my colleagues. So we added 30 days to this year. So what was the whole point of that? The whole point of that is that Reb Shimon ben Gamliel just said that it was befitting in my eyes, so I added 30 days. Whereas Reb Gamliel, who was, right, and that was Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, who was considered very humble, and yet he said, in my eyes, it was befitting to me, so I made it a leap year. Whereas Reb Gamliel was considered to be a very strong personality, but he was from an earlier generation, and even those with strong personalities would write in humble ways that it was befitting to me and my fellow colleagues, so he added 30 days to the year. So that is the difference between the strong personalities of earlier generations and those who are considered to be the most humble of the of later generations. And for the Gemara, however, the Gemara says yes, but not so fast. Maybe this was after Rabbi Gamliel was demoted from and removed from the Beis Hamedrash in the Gemara in Brachis when he embarrassed Rabbi Yoshua, and then he was removed from the Beis Hamedrash. So maybe after that he kind of did Cheshbon HaNefesh, and maybe that's why he was being humble. Maybe it can be attributed to that. Okay. There are 3 reasons why we would add a month to a year. For example, Pesach is coming, and Pashit, the grain, is just not yet ripe. It's just not yet ripe. which would be a problem because what happens is, right, I think that this has to do with, okay, fine, okay, yeah. I assume that the issue is probably you want it to be right because comes Pesach, that's when they bring the Omer, right? The concept of Chodosh is going to come up a few times now, right? There's the concept of Chodosh, which is Be'etzem, when you harvest your grain, right? When the yearly harvest comes and you harvest your grain in Eretz Yisrael, so then you can't eat it right away. You can't eat it right away. You have to wait until the Korban Omer is brought on Pesach, on the second day of Pesach. The Korban Omer is offered, and at that point now you can eat Chodosh. At that point you can eat from the new crop. Until then you have to eat Yoshon. You have to eat from the previous year. You can only eat the harvest, right, the crop of the new year after the Omer is offered. Therefore, there is an interest in making sure that comes Pesach time, all of the produce has already been harvested and we're just waiting for the Korban Omer so that we can consume it. But if Pesach comes and the produce is not yet ready and we're going to bring the Korban Omer when the produce isn't yet, is not yet ready, and the grain is not yet ready, so chaval, because you bring the Korban Omer to allow the new stuff, but there isn't really much new stuff to be spoken about. And then what's going to happen is it's then going to be ready and you're going to harvest it, but then you have to wait for the next Korban Omer. So therefore, if they see that the grain is not yet ripe and Pesach is coming, so then they would add a month to the year to give it more time to ripen. Similarly, the fruits of the trees, because the bikurim would traditionally be brought, right, the first fruits would be brought to the Beis HaMikdash on Shavuos, because anyways, you come to the Beis HaMikdash anyways for the Shalosh Regalim, for Shavuos. So then you bring your bikurim, your first fruits, with you. However, if we see that the fruits are simply not ripening yet, to the extent that Shavuos is going to come and there aren't going to be first fruits to bring, which means that they're going to have to come back another time in order to bring the first fruits. Well then, so then we make a leap year to give another month extra time for the fruits to ripen. Velat Tkufa, as well as the Tkufa, which we are going to learn about, I would say, in detail on Daf Yud Gimel. The Tkufa being, so the year is divided to 4 Tkufas. Tkufas Tishrei, which is 3 months. Tkufas Teves, which is 3 months. Tkufas Tammuz, and then, did I skip one? No, yeah, Tkufas Nisan, right? Tkufas Tishrei, Tkufas Teves, Tkufas Nisan, and then Tkufas Tammuz. So if be'etzim you see that Tkufas Tammuz is going to extend, let's just say, past Sukkot, right? So Tkufas Tishrei isn't going to start until after Sukkot, let's just say. You're going to see it's machlokas. So, right. So Tkufa, basically, basically like Sukkot is going to fall out like in the middle of the summer, right? Right. Of course, we have leap years, right? We have, right. We know whenever like the Yom Noram is getting like too early, all of a sudden we know, like, if like the Yom Noram are like in the middle of August, so we know, okay, this year is probably going to be a leap year. We're going to push everything off by a month. So be'etzem, right? So if we see that that Tkufas Tishrei is not going to begin until after Sukkot, so then we'll add a month so that Sukkot will fall out during Tkufas Tishrei, not during Tkufas Tammuz. Okay. And as I said earlier, one of them alone is not enough. If it's just Aviv, but Peres Elon and the Tkufas are fine, so we would not make a leap year. It would have to be 2 out of 3. 1 second. What's the noise? What the heck is going on? 1 second. I have no clue. I guess people are just being loud. Anyways, so Shnai Ma'abin, Val Echad Mein Ma'abin. We would not make a leap year just for one of the 3. If the new fruits are one of them, so then everybody is happy, right? Kilu, Meaning, if it's going to be a leap year, and they say, okay, why is there a leap year? Well, look, the grain isn't yet ready, right? Therefore, Chaval, we should bring the Korban Omer, right? Chaval, we should bring the Korban Omer, and the grain isn't yet ready. So, if there's a leap year, and we say, oh, wow, how come there's a leap year? And one of the reasons is, well, the grain isn't yet ready. So we say, okay, fine, that makes sense. However, if we made a leap year because of the Tkufa and because of the Peres HaIlon, but the grain is ready. Chaval is just sitting there in the storage houses, the grain is ready, they want to use it already, they want to eat it already, but there's a leap year because of other reasons. It's like, oh, this is Chaval, we have to wait another month before we can eat Chodesh. So therefore, when there's a leap year, and one of the reasons is because of the Aviv, they say, okay, fine, well, look, makes sense that we should have a leap year. Chaval, that we should offer the Korban Omer when the grain isn't yet ready. But if the grain is ready, then Chaval. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Omer al Tkufa, says Rav Shimon ben Gamliel, the Tkufa. What about the Tkufa? Baidu al Tkufa Smechin? Are we saying that when Tkufa is one of the reasons, then the people are happy? One second. Okay. Wait, where is Wait, what? Okay, fine. Okay. Right. So meaning when the tkufa is one of the three, they're happy, because if basically what would happen is if the tkufa was fine, Sukkot was going to fall out the middle of, I don't know, September or something, like, nothing was crazy, but then they make a leap year anyways. Well, then that means that basically, even though everything was fine, but in terms of like the seasons, but they make a leap year for the other reasons because of Aviv and Peres HaIlon, let's say. So now they make a leap year. Well, then anybody who traveled to Yerushalayim is now going to find themselves having to travel back in the middle of October, maybe even November, when it's like all rainy and cold. And that would be kind of annoying. So is that what they're saying? That Rav Shimon Gamliel is saying that when Tkufa is one of the reasons they're happy? Because it would be annoying if like the seasons were all fine, but they had to make a leap year anyways. While at Tkufa Ma'aber, or we're saying that maybe Tkufa alone would be reason to be Ma'aber the Shana. We say Ich weiß nicht. Which is interesting, because I think nowadays basically Tkufa is probably the only reason, right? Like, I don't know, it always seems like whenever the Yom Noraim, Rosh Hashanah kind of creeps up too early, we know that like a leap year is coming. Anyways. Alright. So Rabbanan the Rabbis taught, Al Sholish Arotzis Ma'abin Es HaShana. So when we're talking about the grain and the fruits, so where? Eretz Yisrael is a big place. There are different regions. There's the Galil, there's Yehuda, there's Ever Yarden. So when we talk about making a leap year because of the Peres HaIlon or because of the Aviv, where? So Rabbanan Al Sholosh Arotzis on three sections, three areas, Ma'abin Es HaShana, Yehuda ve'Ever Yarden ve'Galil. So we basically divide up Eretz Yisrael into three sections, I guess. Yehuda, Galil, Ever Yarden. And if in two of three there are issues with the Aviv or issues with Peres HaIlon, then we'll make a leap year. But if there's only issues in one of the three, so then that would not be enough to mean that there's an issue with the Aviv or with the Peres HaIlon if it's only happening in one of the three areas. So you would need two of the three areas. But if it's only one of the areas being negatively affected, that would not be enough. And when Yehuda is one of those negatively affected, so meaning if we are leaping the year because there's an issue with Aviv, and Yehuda is one of the negatively affected areas, Hakol Smechin, people are happy Shein Omer Ba Elam Yehuda, because the Korban Omer ideally comes from Yehuda. And therefore, if the barley is not yet ready in Yehuda, so then we would want that if we're making a leap year because of the Aviv, and Yehuda was one of those places negatively affected, which means that we would be unable to bring the Korban Omer from Yehuda, so then we're happy that they're making a leap year so that we could bring the Korban Omer from Yehuda. However, if Yehuda was all good and hunky-dory and the Omer was ready to go, but we have to push it off by a month because of other reasons, well then it's a shtickle chaval. 1 second. Yeah. Wait, so where is right? So one lefisha ein omer balios mitzvah min mufcha elam Yehuda hekam bishal b'Yehuda ve'ivur b'shvil ashtam shmagi zman omer kvar yavshu tvos sheb'Yehuda va'anu rachu mali b'yinam v'tzarich lavio mishar aratzis chaval. I was just reading Rashi quickly that if the omer is already, it's ready. If the barley is ready in Yehuda, it's ready to be offered, but they have to make a leap year because of the Galil and Evar Yarden chaval, because now you have the omer that's ready. The barley that's ready in Yehuda, which is the best place to bring it from, because it's closest to Yerushalayim. And yet we're adding another month to the year, which means that comes Pesach, comes time to bring the Korban Omer, the barley from Yehuda is already going to be kind of old, and we're going to bring it instead from some other place. Chaval. Okay, fine. We only make leap years from Yehuda, right? That's where Yerushalayim is. That's where we declare the leap year. But if they declared the leap year from the Galilee, okay, it's fine. It's a leap year. The year is leaped. Hey, Chanani Ish Ono testified that if so, it says Chanani Ish Ono that if they leaped the year from the Galilee, it is not leaped. My time of the Chanani Ishono. How come Chanani Ishono says that? The pasuk says the Shichnu Sidrushu Uvasa Shama. You darshan, you are doresh, deliberate in the neighbor, and you go there. Kol drisha shata doresh. All deliberations lo yu ela b'shichnu shamat makom should be in the neighbor of God, i.e., in Yehuda, which is where the Beis Hamikdash is. It can't be done from the Galilee. We only leap the year during the day. If they leap the year at night, the year is not leaped. Similarly, we only declare the new month during the day. If they were Mekadesh during the night, it is not Mekudesh. Says Abba, what is the scriptural source? That you will blow the shofar on the month when the moon is covered. What is the festival where the moon is hidden? That's Rosh Hashanah, because it's the first day of the month where the moon is not yet visible. The Pasuk says that it is a statute for Israel, a justice for the God of Jacob. Just like judgments are during the day, so too being Mekadesh Chodesh is also during the day. Woo! That was like a mission, that daf, but it's a very interesting daf. The first part of the daf we talked about not embarrassing other people. Talked about baskhols and things and nevuah. And then we started getting into details about leaping years, about what things do we leap years for, don't we leap years for, how they join, how many of these factors do you need, things like that, who can do it, where do you do it. Peace out.